Hi loves, welcome back to my channel. My name is Chinwendu. In case you're coming here for the very first time, you are welcome. If you're a returning viewer, you are also welcome. Today's tutorial, we're going to be learning how to make this beautiful gown you can see right here. If this is what you are interested in learning, please stay tuned until the end of this tutorial. I'm going to be making use of 3.5 yards of fabric for this tutorial. So I have it already on top my table, but I've gone ahead to divide it into two. So the pieces you can see on top my table, which I am touching right now, is about 1.5 yards. So I'm going to use it to cut the upper part with the drawstring and the belt and whatever it is I'm going to be making. Then the one I am laying on the table right now, I'm going to use it to cut the down part. Now I have my measurement right here. I have my shoulder measurements. I have my bust points to be 10 inches, my shoulder 15 inches, my waistline, which is also the half length 17 inches, and then the length of my gown, I'm going to make use of 38 inches. Now we are going to be cutting out the down part of this gown first, because if you want to make this particular dress, you have to cut out the down part first, okay? Because flare has a way of consuming material, so you have to cut it first. So now to cut out the down part, you're going to have to minus your half length from the total length of your gown. So my half length is 17 minus 38 inches. That is 38 minus 17. I'm going to have 21 inches. This is the length of the flare. Okay, now to get my radius, I'm going to use my round waist measurement. Then I will divide it by 6.28 because this is going to be a full flare. Now my round waist measurement is 38 inches. I'll divide it by 6.28, but before I divide, I'm going to consider that I'll be adding a zipper allowance. So I'll be making use of 1 inch. So 38 plus 1, I'm going to have 39. I will then divide it by 6.28 and have 6 inches. Okay, so my radius is going to be 6 inches. Now I'll plus this 6 inches plus the 21 inches. I'm going to have 27 inches. Now I'm going to fold my fabric in such a way that this particular side, that is the vertical axis and the horizontal axis, is going to be 27 inches. I've folded my fabric into 4 and I have the folded parts, which you can see me placing my tape on top of it. So you're going to ensure that you have about 27 inches on the horizontal axis and also on the vertical axis. Okay, so and I'm going to start my measurement from the folded part, which I am showing you right now. Okay, so this is the folded parts, and remember this is folded into 4. Okay, so we are going to be cutting out a full flare. So what I'm going to do is to place my tape on the right angle triangle. Okay, and then I will be marking out 27 inches. Now I'm going to mark out simultaneously the radius and the length of my flare at once. Remember that the length of the flare is going to be 21 inches and the radius is 6 inches. So if you plus this together, we are going to have 27 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and mark out 27 inches right here from this right angle triangle. I don't know if you are understanding me. So now I'm going to place my tape, but instead of marking out this my radius, which is 6 inches, and afterwards I would mark out my 21 inches, I'm going to go ahead and mark this out simultaneously. So I'm going to mark 6 inches from this pointed axis, and then I would equally mark out 21 inches at once. Okay, making it 27 inches. So that is what you can see me doing right now. So I'm going to mark this out and once I am done, I'm going to cut it out. But you guys, let me tell you one secret. Because this fabric is stretchy, what I'm actually marking out right now is 5 inches. I minused 1 from the 6 inches, and then the length I'm using 26 inches. So in total, I'm making use of 5 for the radius and 21 inches for the length. Okay, so in total I'm making use of 26 inches. I don't know if you are getting me. All right, so I'm done marking this out, and the next thing I'm going to do is to go ahead and cut out the length. And once I am done cutting out the length, I'm going to cut out the radius. So you guys, you can see I'm going to open this up for you to see how full this is. Okay, so this is 360-degree flare. Okay, now because I'll be making use of zip allowance, I'm going to slash one part of it. Okay, and when I open it, this is what we have. Now we are done with the down part of this gown. I'm going to move over to the upper parts. So I'm bringing in this particular 1.5 yards of fabric that I left behind before, and I'm going to ensure that I'm using the stretchy part, the side that is most stretchy for the horizontal axis. Okay, I don't know if you are getting me. So I folded my fabric into 2. After I fold my fabric into 2, what I'm going to do next is to mark out the starting line. So remember, this is the upper part, that is the half scale I'm cutting out right now, and from my shoulder to the length of this upper part is going to be 17 inches. But then I'm going to add half an inch for stitching to the down part, so I'll be having 17.5 inches. Okay, so from the starting line, which is the shoulder line, I'm going to mark my bust point 10 inches, and then the waist line, which is the half scale, 17 inches. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead from the folded part again, and I'll mark out my shoulder. My shoulder is 15 divided by 2. I have 7.5 inches. Now because this is a cut together, I don't know if I have said this before, this is a cut together sleeve. I'm going to place my tape on this shoulder line, and I will mark out 12 inches. Okay, this is because I don't have enough length on this fabric, but if you have enough length, you would like to mark out about 18 inches so that your sleeve can go down a little. Okay, now from this shoulder line again, I'm going to come down by 1 inch, which is going to be my shoulder slope, and then I would connect it to the shoulder line. Okay, now once I am done with this, I'm going to place my tape again on this slope, and then I would mark down to 10 inches. This is how wide I want my sleeve to be. Okay, so I'm going to mark 10 inches, and this is going to also be my armhole depth. Okay, now after I mark this, I'm going to go ahead and determine the neckline that I want, and you can see the neckline is very wide. It's looking more like an off shoulder, or you can call that a canoe neckline. Okay, a very wide neckline, which the width ought to be very wide and the depth very small. Okay, so the depth is not going to be that deep, so I'm making use of wideness of 6.5 inches, and then the depth I'm making use of 1 inch. Okay, this is basically the front I am cutting out, but I'm going to insert 1 inch, which is the back neckline. Okay, but after I cut this out, I'm going to after everything, I'm going to go ahead and cut the front neckline. But for now, I'm inserting just the back neck depth, okay, which is 1 inch. Now once you are done with that, you're going to go down to your bust point again, and then you divide your bust circumference by 4, add your 1 inch for sewing allowance. You're going to repeat the same thing on the waistline. You're going to divide your waist circumference by 4 plus 1 inch for sewing allowance. Now from the bust point, you're going to go down by 2 inches, okay, and then connect your armhole to the body measurement. Okay, so this 1 inch that you went down is just for that place to be kind of free, okay, for your armhole to be very free, because this is meant to be free down there. All right, now after that, you're going to add up your 1/2 inch for sewing the upper part to the down parts. Okay, remember that the down part is our flare, and once you are done with that, you go ahead and cut out what you have. Now don't forget to add your shoulder seam allowance, and which is what I just added, 1/2 inch. And once you are done with that, you're going to go ahead and cut out what you have. So you guys, you can see this is for the fronts. I'm going to bring in and fold another fabric and then use it to cut out the back, but the back is going to be coming with a zipper allowance. So I'm going to fold this fabric into 2 again, and after I fold it, I'm going to bring in the fronts. But before I place this front properly well, I'm going to mark out 1 inch for my zipper allowance. So from the center back, I'm going to mark 1 inch inward. Okay, so after I mark it, I'm going to use my straight ruler and connect all the lines together, and then put in my front piece. Okay, so you can see I'm going to go ahead and cut out exactly what I have on this front piece. The difference between the front and the back is just the zipper allowance. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and cut it out right now, and then trim the front neck depths like I told you. So I'm going to go down a little so that I can differentiate between the front and the back neck. But if you want, you can as well leave it the same way. That is, you can leave the front and the back neck depth the same way. Okay, and please don't forget to notch your zipper allowance, which is what you can see me doing right now. And once I am done with this, we are done with our cutting. Now it's time for us to sew this, but we are going to be needing a bias. If you like, you can use a bias to turn this. If you like, you can cut out a facing for this, but for me, I'm going to use this particular fabric to form my bias. Okay, all you have to do is to fold on bias, and then you cut out your fabric. Once you fold on bias, a non-stretchy fabric is going to stretch a little, and which will enable you to be able to turn your neckline properly well. Okay, but already this fabric is stretching, so I'm going to cut out my bias, which is what I am trying to do right now. I'm going to use these pieces to cut out the bias, my strap for the drawstring, and then the belts. Okay, for the belts, I'm going to make it 2 inches. Now for the drawstring, you're going to make it 1 inch, so that after you turn it, you're going to have half, because you're going to sew with half and then turn it over and what you're going to be left with is half yard. I am done folding my bias. You can see I folded one part, and with the other part I'm going to sew using 1/4 of an inch. And after I sew the neckline, I'm going to turn it over to the wrong side. Remember that your good side and the good side of the bias is supposed to face each other, and you turn over to the wrong side. Okay, now this is for my lush, which I'm going to use as the sleeve drawstring. Okay, I'm going to sew them and come show you what we have. You can see I am done sewing the neck of the front. This is what I have. And for the back, I am also done sewing the neck of the back. Okay, so these are the two back. So next thing I'm going to do is to move over to my sewing machine and stitch the zipper allowance. So remember, we have 1 inch for the zipper allowance. After I stitch it, I'm going to also weave the rough edges. So I'm going to weave the shoulder, the sleeve hem, and the zipper allowance. I'm going to weave it right now and can show you. So you guys, you can see I've weaved all around every other part that I'm supposed to weave. I have them in place right now. Next thing I'm going to do is to go ahead and hem the sleeve. Okay, so I'm going to hem the down part of the sleeve. You can see the belt for the drawstring. Okay, so now I'm going to go over to my sewing machine and then hem the down part of my sleeve. You can see I'm going to hem it just like this using 1/2 inch. I'm going to go hem it and show you what we have. I am done, and this is what I have, you guys. So what's next is for us to join the shoulders together. Now I'm going to go join the shoulder, and to join the shoulder I'm going to make use of 1/2 inch on both sides. So I will go join it and come show you. So guys, I'm done joining the shoulder. The next thing I'm going to do is to go ahead and top stitch on top the seam allowance, and this seam allowance is going to be my channel for the drawstring. Okay, so I'm going to go right to my sewing machine and top stitch using my tight stitch on both sides of the seam allowance. Okay, so now I've top stitched. You can see, if you take a close look, you will see that I have my lines right there. Okay, and you can see what it looks like. Now it's time for us to insert the drawstring. This is the rope. I'm going to make use of my bodkin. You can make use of your pin if you have a pin and you don't have this bodkin. Okay, so I'm going to start from the down part of the arm and start inserting one part of the seam allowance. So you can see the way I'm inserting it. I'm going to make sure that it comes out on the shoulder. Okay, and once it comes out, I'm going to arrange it properly well and then pass through the other side of the seam allowance. So basically this rope is one piece, and you're going to have to insert it on both sides of the seam allowance, that is the shoulder seam allowance. So I am done inserting one part of it. I'm going to make sure that the ropes are equal. So I'm trying to arrange it so that the other part can be equal with the other side. So I am done arranging it. Now I'm going to pull it for you guys to see what we have. Now whatever I have right here, I'm going to repeat it on the other side. Okay, this is basically very easy, you guys. So at this point, guys, if you haven't hit on the subscribe button, please endeavor to subscribe to our beautiful channel. Turn on your post notification to get notified once I upload a new video. Okay, so I am done inserting on one side. I am going to do the same thing to the other side right now. And you guys, now I am literally done inserting this drawstring. I'm going to go ahead and pull it for you guys to also see what we have here. Now that we are done, this is what the inside looks like. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and join the seam allowance. Remember that when we were drafting this, we left 1 inch seam allowance. I've joined it and I've gone ahead to also weave the side seam. Okay, I'm going to turn over to the right side, and then we are going to go ahead and sew in the flare. So this is the upper part of my gown. I'm going to go ahead and loosen the seam allowance, that is the zipper seam allowance, and then bring in my flare. Okay, you're going to ensure that the right side of both the down parts and the upper parts are facing each other, and you're going to have to use your pins to hold it all around the upper part. Okay, and you go right to your sewing machine and stitch. Now you guys, I am done stitching. I've also hemmed the down part, as you can see. I've also gone ahead to insert my zip. I made use of an invisible zip. It's quite easy to fix. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and open it up for you guys to see what we have here. But you guys, if you don't want to make use of a zip, because this is a flare gown, it's optional. Okay, you can go ahead and stitch up that seam allowance. Now that we are done, it's time for us to open up the slits. Remember, this is a short gown. You must not open up the slits, but for this for the sake of this tutorial, I'm going to open it up, but it's not going to be up to the one you can see on the screen. That is our inspiration. It's not going to be up to that. I'm just going to slit it a little, about 8 inches. Okay, so what you're going to do is to make sure that you wear your gown, and then on one part of your leg, you're going to follow the center to slit your flare. Okay, so I'm going to slit it right now, and then go ahead and pipe it using this fabric. I'm going to form like a bias and use to pipe it. If you don't have enough fabric, you can as well make use of a bias tape to do that. Okay, so this is the way I'm going to go ahead and pipe. And once I am done, I'm going to come show you guys the outcome. But before that, we are going to have to form our belt. Okay, so guys, here is the strap for our belt. If I measure it, you will see that it's 2 inches on fold. I'm going to go ahead and join it using 1/2 inch. So by the time I turn it, it's going to remain 1.5 inches. And you can see that I cut it out very long because I want it to go around my waist. Okay, so guys, here is where we'll be ending this tutorial. I'll show you guys what this gown looks like. You can see it. And if you find this video helpful, please don't forget to subscribe. I will see you in my next one.